They arrested her in an evening gown, handcuffed Mira Anand in front of Manhattan's elite, dragged her through the lobby of the plaza, photographed her in her makeup from a $500 per plate gala, and charged her with stealing a $2 million heritage necklace. The evidence: it was in her purse. The problem: she never touched it. 5 years later, Mira walked back into that same company, not as an employee, not as a guest, but as the new owner, controlling stake, majority shareholder, decision-making authority over every single person who watched her get arrested and did nothing, including the woman who actually stole the necklace and made sure Mira took the fall. Want to know how someone goes from arrested to owning the empire that destroyed them? Stay with me, because this story has security footage, wire transfers, and a woman who learned that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's acquisition. Subscribe now. I spend hours researching and crafting these stories of people who refuse to stay down. Your support keeps these powerful narratives coming. Now let's go back to the night everything fell apart. 5 years earlier, Mira Anand had believed in 3 things: hard work, integrity, and love. She was about to lose her faith in all 3 in a single night. The Aurum Heritage Gala was the event of the season. 400 guests, a glass atrium overlooking Central Park, museum cases displaying the company's most legendary pieces. Aurum House had been the gold standard in luxury jewelry for 60 years. 3 generations of the Mira family had built an empire on craftsmanship, exclusivity, and the kind of reputation money couldn't buy. Mira had worked in their merchandising division for 2 years. She was brilliant at it, analyzing trends, building relationships with suppliers, understanding what made customers spend 6 figures on a single piece. She'd grown up in Edison, New Jersey, daughter of a postal worker, and she'd earned every single thing she had: NYU Stern Scholarship, Junior Analyst of the Year, promotion to Senior Merchandiser at 26. And then there was Arjun Mehra, 32, heir to the empire, with his perfectly tailored suits and his Princeton pedigree and the kind of confidence that came from never having to prove yourself to anyone. He'd noticed her in a product meeting, asked her to coffee, then dinner, then 3 months of careful, genuine courtship that had surprised everyone, including Mira. "My family's going to have opinions," he'd warned her early on. "About your background, about the optics. And what do you think?" she'd asked. "I think you're the smartest person in any room you walk into. And I'm tired of pretending that matters less than where someone's parents went to college." 6 months after that conversation, he'd proposed. Private, intimate, real, or so she'd thought. The gala was her first major appearance as Arjun's fiancée. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a deep emerald silk gown, elegant but not trying too hard. Her mother's small gold bangles, the only jewelry she wore. "You look perfect," Arjun had said when he'd picked her up, but there was tension in his jaw, the kind that said he was bracing for something. The atrium was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, a string quartet, waiters in white gloves carrying champagne that cost more per bottle than Mira's monthly rent used to be. And everywhere she looked, judgment. The Aurum world wasn't just wealthy, it was old money, careful breeding, the kind of society where your great-grandmother's maiden name mattered more than your graduate degree. Alina Kapoor had been waiting near the entrance. Alina was technically a family friend. Her late father had been business partners with Arjun's grandfather. She'd grown up alongside the Mehra children, attended every family function, treated the Aurum Empire like it was partially hers by proximity. She was 35, beautiful in the way expensive maintenance made possible, and she'd made her feelings about Mira clear from day one. Mira. She'd air-kissed both cheeks with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That dress is charming. Very," Accessible. Accessible. The word hung in the air, like an insult, wrapped in compliment paper. Thank you, Mira had said evenly. And those bangles, family pieces? Alina had tilted her head, studying them, like a scientist examining something under a microscope. How sweet that you honor your roots. Though perhaps for future Aurum events, we could introduce you to our in-house designers. Wouldn't want anyone thinking the merchandising team can't afford our own products. Arjun had stiffened beside her, but said nothing. That should have been Mira's first warning. The evening had progressed in careful social choreography. Mira had met board members, smiled through passive-aggressive questions about her journey into luxury retail, and watched Arjun navigate conversations with the ease of someone born into this world. She'd excused herself to the ladies' room around 9 p.m., leaving her small clutch, ivory silk, barely big enough for her phone and lipstick, on her seat at their assigned table. When she'd returned 7 minutes later, Alina had been standing near their table, talking animatedly with Rhea Malhotra, Aurum's PR director. There you are, Alina had smiled. We were just discussing the heritage pieces on display. Have you seen the Maharani necklace yet? It's absolutely breathtaking. Not yet, Mira had said, picking up her clutch. You must. It's the centerpiece. $2 million, vintage 1960s, originally commissioned for actual Indian royalty. It's in the main display case. Come, I'll show you. Something in Alina's voice had felt off. Too bright. Too insistent. But Mira had followed, clutch in hand, through the crowd toward the museum cases that lined the atrium's north wall. That's when the night had shattered. Gomes, the head of security, a former NYPD detective with 20 years at Aurum, had appeared suddenly at the microphone, his voice cutting through the string quartet. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption. We have a security situation. I need everyone to remain calm while we conduct a brief check of the premises. The room had gone silent. Confused murmurs. Nervous laughter. What's happening? Mira had whispered to Arjun, who'd appeared at her elbow. His face was pale. I don't know. But he did. She would realize that later. He absolutely did. Gomes had approached the display cases with 2 security officers. The centerpiece case, the one that should have held the Maharani necklace, was empty. The crowd had pressed closer. Gasps, whispers, escalating into concerned conversations. The heritage necklace is missing, Gomes had announced, his voice carrying. I'm going to need to conduct random bag checks. This is purely procedural. I appreciate everyone's cooperation. Random. Except it wasn't random at all. Gomes had started with the tables nearest the display cases. Checked 3 clutches. 4. Then he'd reached their table. Ma'am, he'd looked directly at Mira. Her heart had started pounding for no reason she could name. Just instinct. Just the prey animal sense that something was very, very wrong. Of course. She'd handed him the clutch. He'd opened it, reached inside, and pulled out the Maharani necklace. Oh my God! Rhea's hand flying to her mouth. Cameras, suddenly everywhere, flashing as society photographers captured the moment. Mira's voice, distant and confused. That's not, I didn't. Gomes, professional and cold. Ma'am, I need you to come with me. Arjun frozen, absolutely frozen. Arjun. She turned to him, desperate. Arjun, I didn't take this. Someone put it there. You know I would never. Let's not make a scene, he'd said quietly. His voice had been so careful, so controlled. Let the security team do their job. There's a process. If there's been a mistake, it'll get cleared up. A mistake. He'd called her being framed a mistake, and he'd let them take her. The security office had been windowless and fluorescent lit. 2 NYPD officers had arrived within 20 minutes. Prearranged, Mira would realize later, because someone had called them before the necklace was even discovered. She'd sat in a plastic chair in her $800 gown while officers photographed the necklace, photographed her clutch, took her statement. "I didn't take it. Someone planted it. Check the cameras. Check the footage from the last hour." The officers had exchanged glances. The older one, Rodriguez, had sighed. "Ms. Anand, we'll investigate thoroughly, but right now, the evidence is fabricated. The evidence is fabricated." Ria had appeared in the doorway then, perfectly composed, her concern looking practiced. "Mira, honey, listen, this is bad. This is really bad. The press is already outside. TMZ has the photos. This is about to become a nightmare for everyone. You, Arjun, the company." She'd leaned in, voice dropping. "But we can make this go away. Sign a statement saying you borrowed it to look at more closely. You panicked when you realized the misunderstanding, and you're deeply apologetic. We'll frame it as a mistake, not a theft. No charges. You resign quietly. Everyone moves on." "I didn't take it. Mira, I didn't take it." Ria's sympathy had evaporated. "Then you're making a choice, and choices have consequences." The consequences came fast. Mira was arrested at 11:47 p.m., handcuffed in her evening gown, walked through the lobby past remaining guests who'd stayed to watch the drama unfold. She'd searched the crowd for Arjun. He'd been standing with his mother and Alina, speaking with their family attorney. He'd looked up as she'd passed. Their eyes had met, and he'd looked away. That moment had hurt worse than the handcuffs. The police station had been exactly like the movies. Harsh lights, metal benches, the smell of industrial cleaner failing to mask human desperation. They'd processed her. Fingerprints, mugshot, a phone call to her father that had broken her completely. "Papa, I need," her voice had cracked. "I need bail money. I've been arrested, but I didn't do anything. I swear to God. I didn't do anything." Vijay Anand had been silent for 3 seconds. Then, "I'm coming. Don't say anything to anyone until I get there." He'd arrived 2 hours later with every dollar he had. $5,000 toward the $50,000 bail. The rest had come from a bondsman who'd charged interest rates that should have been illegal. The case had dragged for 4 months. Mira's public defender, overworked, underpaid, juggling 90 cases, had done his best. But the evidence looked damning. Necklace in her bag. Her fingerprints on it, if porous they were. She'd touched it when Gomes pulled it out. Opportunity and access. The CCTV footage from the gala. Technical malfunction during the critical window. The venue's backup system. Being reviewed by their insurance vendor. Not available for the investigation. Gomes, the security chief who'd found the necklace. Suddenly unavailable for follow-up questioning, medical leave. Every piece of evidence that might have proven her innocence had mysteriously disappeared or malfunctioned. Meanwhile, the press had been brutal. Gold digger caught, Mira Air's fiancé arrested for $2 million theft. From rags to riches to handcuffs, the fall of Mira Anand. Aurum Insider, how she almost got away with it. Social media had been worse. Armchair detectives, analyzing her Instagram, finding evidence of her social climbing, dissecting every photo with Arjun as proof she'd been planning this all along. The engagement had been quietly called off. No statement, just his assistant returning her belongings to her father's house in a box. 4 months after her arrest, the DA's office had dropped the charges. Not because she was proven innocent, because they couldn't prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt without the CCTV footage, without Gomes's testimony, without anything except circumstantial evidence. Case dismissed for insufficient evidence. Those words should have felt like victory. Instead, they'd felt like a different kind of conviction. Because insufficient evidence wasn't innocent. It was, we think you did it, but we can't prove it. The stain remained. The whispers continued, and Mira Anand walked out of that courthouse knowing that in the only world that had ever mattered to her, luxury retail, the career she'd built, the future she'd planned, she was already dead. 6 weeks after the dismissal, Mira had been sitting in her childhood bedroom in Edison, surrounded by rejection emails, when her father had knocked softly. Beta. He'd sat on the edge of her bed. Vijay Anand was 63, gray-haired, with the quiet dignity of a man who'd worked the same postal route for 35 years and never complained once. You need to decide something. What? Whether you're going to let them win. She looked at him, exhausted. Papa, they already won. I'm blacklisted. No one will hire me. I have a dismissed theft charge that shows up in every background check. It's over. So start over. I can't. You can. His voice had been firm. You're not the first person to be destroyed by powerful people protecting their own. But you get to choose what happens next. You can disappear. Or you can build something they can't take away. Mira had stared at her father. This man who'd never made more than $50,000 a year, who'd put her through college on night shifts and sacrifice, who'd bailed her out of jail without a single question about guilt or innocence. How? She'd whispered. The same way you've done everything else. One day at a time. One decision at a time. One choice to not give up. That night, Mira had made a list, not of what she'd lost, of what she still had, her brain, her skills, her understanding of what made luxury meaningful versus what made it exploitative, and one realization that burned like a coal in her chest. The people who destroyed her had done it because they could, because the system protected them, because opacity and exclusivity allowed abuse to thrive in shadows. So she'd build the opposite: radical transparency, ethical supply chains, jewelry that told you exactly where it came from, who made it, and what they were paid. Good luxury, real luxury. Luxury that didn't require anyone's humiliation to exist. She didn't know if it would work, but she knew she had to try. Because the alternative, accepting defeat, disappearing, letting them win, wasn't an option. Not anymore. Ready for Chapter 2? Comment, rise, and I'll show you how Mira built an empire from rock bottom, and how the people who destroyed her started to fall apart. Rock bottom looked like her childhood bedroom in Edison, New Jersey. Mira spent 3 months there after the case was dismissed. 3 months of rejection emails, background checks that flagged her arrest, LinkedIn messages from former colleagues who'd suddenly gone silent. The luxury retail world had made its decision. Guilty until proven innocent didn't matter when insufficient evidence still showed up in Google searches next to your name. She started small. Handmade pieces at her father's kitchen table, silver wire, ethically sourced stones from a co-op in Jaipur she'd worked with years ago. She photographed them with her phone, listed them on Etsy. 23 sales the first month, 41 the second. Each order came with a card, made by Mira Anand, materials sourced from specific mine, artisan wage, exact amount, lifetime repair guarantee. The transparency was radical. Scannable QR codes that showed the entire supply chain, from mine to artisan to customer, published wage rates, environmental impact reports. She called it Anya Atelier. Anya, Sanskrit for grace. Her mother's middle name, the word her father whispered when he talked about the wife he'd lost when Mira was 16. Good luxury. Honest luxury. Everything Orem House pretended to be, but wasn't. Month 4, someone noticed. Dinesh Varma was 72, a retail legend who'd built and sold 3 successful brands before retiring to Montauk. He'd been Mira's professor for 1 semester at NYU, the only teacher who'd ever made her feel like luxury could be ethical instead of exploitative. He'd called her directly. "I've been watching your work. The transparency model is brilliant. The execution needs refinement." "I don't have capital to refine anything," Mira had said flatly. "You don't need capital. You need strategy and a mentor who knows how to scale without compromising integrity." Coffee. Thursday. My treat. Varma had been brutally honest. "Your designs are good. Your supply chain ethics are excellent. Your branding is amateur. Your pricing is too low. You're undervaluing quality to compete on volume. And your story is your most valuable asset, but you're hiding from it. My story is a liability. Your story is a woman who was destroyed by a corrupt system and chose to build something better instead of disappearing. That's not a liability. That's a movement." He'd pushed a folder across the table. Inside, a proposed business plan, a list of investors he'd personally guarantee, and a single condition. "I'll back you. I'll introduce you to people who matter. But you do this right. No shortcuts. No compromises on ethics. And no hiding. You own what happened to you and use it to build trust." Mira had stared at the folder, at this man who owed her nothing. Why? Because 40 years ago, someone gave me a chance when I had nothing. And because watching Orem House destroy you made me realize I've been too comfortable in retirement. He'd smiled grimly. Consider this my late career redemption arc. The growth was methodical, strategic. Anya Atelier launched officially 18 months after Mira's arrest. Not on Etsy, on its own platform, with Varma's connections funding the tech infrastructure. Every piece came with blockchain provenance. Customers could scan a code and see the mine where the gold originated, the artisan who crafted it, their wage, always above fair trade standards, environmental impact offsets, and a lifetime repair guarantee. The messaging was direct. Luxury shouldn't require exploitation. Beauty shouldn't demand silence. Quality shouldn't hide its origins. It resonated, first, with micro-influencers tired of empty brand activism. Then with brides who wanted their wedding jewelry to reflect their values. Then with a tech CEO who wore an Anya piece to a TechCrunch interview and called it the only luxury brand with a conscience. Revenue hit $2 million in year 1, $8 million in year 2. Forbes ran a profile. From framed to founder, Mira Anand's radical transparency model. The article mentioned Orem House exactly once. Anand, who was famously accused of theft from her former employer Orem House in a case later dismissed, has built her brand on the opposite principle. Nothing hidden, everything traceable. Mira had framed that article, not for pride, for fuel. While Anya rose, Orem fell. It happened slowly, then suddenly. The luxury market was shifting. Younger buyers cared about ethics, sustainability, provenance, Orem's traditional opacity. Our suppliers are trade secrets. Our processes are proprietary. Looked less like exclusivity and more like something to hide. Store closures started quietly. The Miami location, then Dallas, then the smaller Manhattan showroom. Then the scandals leaked. An investigative report in the Times, Orem House supplier linked to conflict minerals. A viral TikTok from a former employee. I worked here for 3 years. They knew. They always knew. Internally, Bharat went deeper. The embezzlement Alina had helped bury, $4.7 million siphoned through fake supplier invoices, finally surfaced during a routine audit triggered by nervous lenders. The CFO resigned. The board launched an investigation. Stock dropped 38%. Arjun, now CEO after his father's retirement, looked exhausted in every photograph. The golden heir trying to save a sinking ship. Mira watched from a distance. Not with satisfaction, not with two, with calculation. Year 4, Varma had called her into his Montauk home. Aram's in trouble. Real trouble. They've violated debt covenants. Lenders are losing patience. There's going to be a distress sale within 6 months. Mira had gone very still. And I have a consortium of investors, myself included, who would back an acquisition if the right operator wanted to lead it. He'd studied her carefully. You could buy them, Mira, not just a stake. Control. The whole thing. Why would I want to own the company that destroyed me? Because destroying them back doesn't fix anything. But acquiring them, cleaning house, implementing your standards across their entire operation, restoring every person they've wronged? He'd leaned forward. That's not revenge. That's transformation. Mira had thought about her father's words years ago. You get to choose what happens next. What would it take? Everything you've built, every relationship, every ounce of credibility, and the willingness to walk back into the room where they handcuffed you as their boss. She'd looked out at the ocean, at the horizon line where water met sky. Set up the meetings. The due diligence took 4 months. Forensic accountants, legal teams, strategy sessions that lasted until 3 a.m. Oram's books were worse than anyone knew. The embezzlement was just the visible wound. Underneath was years of inflated valuations, supplier exploitation, labor violations covered up by aggressive NDAs. The board was desperate. 3 potential buyers had walked away after seeing the full picture. Mira's offer came in 40% below the last valuation. But it came with something no other buyer offered. A plan that didn't involve liquidation or mass layoffs. A plan that actually fixed things. The board had no choice. They accepted. The signing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in the same Oram House boardroom, where Mira had once sat in strategy meetings, back when she'd believed she had a future there. Alina had tried to avoid attending. She'd claimed illness, scheduling conflicts, family emergencies. The board's attorney had been clear. All current stakeholders must be present for final acquisition approval, non-negotiable. So Alina came, and Arjun came, and the same board members who'd watched Mira get arrested and done nothing. They all came. And Mira walked in carrying something none of them expected. Receipts. Family, have you ever watched karma arrive not with chaos, but with contracts? Have you seen justice delivered through lawyers instead of revenge? Drop a comment, because what happens next is surgical, legal, and absolutely devastating. Ready for the final act? Comment receipts, and I'll show you exactly how Mira collected a debt 5 years in the making. The boardroom was silent except for the sound of Mira's laptop opening. She'd signed the final acquisition papers 3 minutes ago. Every board member had countersigned. The wire transfers were being processed. In 6 hours, when markets closed, the announcement would go live. Anya Atelier acquires Oram House in $340 million distressed sale. But Mira wasn't finished. Before we adjourn, she said quietly, there's something everyone needs to see. Arjun looked up sharply. He was 37 now, with lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. Mira, the deal is done. Whatever you're... I'm not renegotiating. Her voice was steady, professional. I'm providing context for the cultural changes that begin tomorrow. She turned her laptop screen toward the room and pressed play. The footage was grainy but clear. Date stamp: 5 years, 4 months, 11 days ago. Location: Plaza Hotel Grand Atrium. Camera angle: insurance vendor's backup system, positioned to capture the museum display cases for liability purposes. The timestamp read 9:03 p.m. On screen, Alina Kapoor, in her champagne-colored gown, standing near the Mira family's assigned table, her back to the main crowd, her hand reaching into an ivory silk clutch that wasn't hers. The footage showed everything. Alina's gloved fingers, she'd worn evening gloves, Mira noticed for the first time, never took them off all night, removing the Maharani necklace from her own bag, slipping it carefully into Mira's clutch, glancing around once, then walking away. 90 seconds later, Mira returned from the restroom, picked up her clutch, and followed Alina toward the display cases. 17 minutes after that, security discovered the theft. The video kept playing, showed Alina's perfectly timed gasp when Gomes pulled the necklace from Mira's bag, showed her hand flying to her mouth, the performance of shock. Showed Arjun, standing 2 feet away, watching his fiancée get handcuffed and doing nothing. Alina had gone white. That's, where did you get? The Plaza's insurance vendor keeps off-site backups for 7 years. Standard practice for high-value event coverage. Mira's voice was calm, almost kind. Their security liaison retired last year. He reached out to me 6 months ago. Said he'd always wondered why the footage was never requested during the investigation. So he checked the backup archives. She paused the video. Would you like to know what else he found? Silence. Mira opened a folder, placed 3 documents on the table. Wire transfer records, 2 payments of $25,000 each from an account registered to Alina Kapoor to Ricardo Gomes, former head of security. First payment, 2 days before the gala. Second payment, 1 week after my arrest. She slid another document forward. Gomes's signed affidavit, given to my attorneys 4 months ago in exchange for immunity from civil liability. He details how Alina approached him 3 weeks before the gala, how she paid him to misplace the primary CCTV footage, how she provided him with the necklace the morning of the event, how he was instructed to conduct random bag checks starting with our table. Alina stood abruptly. This is, you can't, I can. Mira's voice hardened. Because I own this company now, and the first thing I'm doing as majority shareholder is initiating a comprehensive ethics investigation into the 2019 Heritage Gala incident. Gomes's affidavit, the recovered footage, and the wire transfers have all been turned over to the Manhattan DA's office. They're reopening the case. Not against me. Against you. Ria Malhotra, the PR director who'd offered Mira that false confession 5 years ago, had her hand over her mouth. There's more, Mira continued. The embezzlement investigation that triggered this company's financial collapse? The one that exposed $4.7 million in fraudulent supplier invoices? Forensic accountants found something interesting. She placed another document down. Alina authorized 70% of those payments. She signed off on fake invoices, approved wire transfers to shell companies, and buried internal audit flags for 3 years. The board erupted, voices overlapping, legal counsel whispering urgently. Mira waited for silence. I'm not here for revenge, she said finally. I'm here to fix what's broken. But fixing requires honesty, and honesty requires accountability. She looked directly at Alina. You have 2 choices. Resign immediately, cooperate fully with investigators, and accept whatever criminal charges follow. Or force me to terminate you publicly, with cause, with every piece of evidence attached to the termination filing. Alina's hands were shaking. Arjun. Everyone turned to look at him. Arjun stared at the documents, at the frozen video frame, at the woman who'd been his family friend for 30 years. Resign, he said quietly. Today. Alina left 20 minutes later. No goodbye, no apology, just her attorney and a security escort. The board adjourned in shell-shocked silence. Arjun stayed. He stood at the window, looking out at the Manhattan skyline, while Mira packed her laptop. "I'm sorry," he said finally. Mira stopped, waited. "I'm sorry I didn't defend you. I'm sorry I chose the company's reputation over your innocence. I'm sorry I let them walk you out in handcuffs because I was too afraid to." His voice broke. "I was a coward, and you paid for it." Mira studied him. This man she'd almost married. This man who'd let her burn to protect his family's name. "Yes," she said simply. "I did. Can you forgive me?" She thought about it. Really thought about it. "I don't know," she said honestly. "You didn't plant the necklace. You didn't pay off security. But you stood there and let it happen. And that silence did just as much damage." "I know. So here's what I can offer. I won't destroy you. You'll keep your position if you want it, but under my leadership, with my values, with accountability at every level. You'll help me fix this company, or you'll leave. Those are the options." Arjun nodded slowly. "What about us?" Mira picked up her bag. "There is no us. There's a professional relationship, if you earn it. That's all." She walked toward the door, then paused. "You asked if I can forgive you. Maybe someday. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust, Arjun. And trust isn't the same as going back to what we were. You get to work with me, you don't get me." She left him standing there. The press conference was scheduled for the following morning. Mira stood at a podium in the Aurum House flagship showroom, surrounded by cameras, reporters, and employees who had no idea what was coming. "My name is Mira Anand. 5 years ago, I was arrested in this building for a theft I didn't commit. Today, I'm the majority owner of this company. And I want to explain why that matters." She took a breath. Aurum House was built on a lie that luxury requires opacity, that exclusivity means hiding where things come from, how they're made, who's exploited in the process. That reputation matters more than truth. I'm here to change that. She outlined her plan. Every piece, every detail. Full provenance tracking for every item, blockchain verified from mine to customer. Published wage rates for every worker in the supply chain. Independent ethics audits quarterly. A whistleblower protection program with guaranteed legal defense for anyone reporting misconduct. I'm also announcing the Aurum Restoration Fund. $10 million set aside to compensate every employee wrongfully terminated, every supplier unfairly treated, every person harmed by this company's culture over the past decade. The room was silent. Luxury doesn't have to exploit. Quality doesn't have to hide. Excellence doesn't require anyone's humiliation. She looked directly at the camera. It just requires the courage to do things right, even when doing things right is harder. The changes happened fast. Mira brought in Varma as an advisor, promoted 3 women from within to C-suite positions, fired 6 executives whose conduct didn't meet the new ethics standards. She personally called every employee who'd been laid off during the company's financial crisis, offered them their jobs back at increased wages. 17 accepted. The Maharani necklace, the piece that had destroyed her life, was placed in the Aurum Museum with a new plaque. Heritage necklace, 1960, commissioned by Maharani Gayatri Devi, crafted by master artisan Ravi Mehta, whose family has been creating jewelry for 4 generations. This piece represents not just beauty, but the hands and history that created it. Luxury is a human story. We commit to honoring every person in ours. Under the plaque, in smaller text, donated by Mira Anand, Aurum House Chair and CEO. She'd returned the thing that was supposed to end her, and turned it into a promise. 6 months after the acquisition, Anya Atelier and Aurum House merged operations under a unified ethics framework. Revenue stabilized, then grew. Younger customers came back. Press coverage shifted from scandal to innovation. Mira appeared on the cover of Fortune, the CEO who bought her own redemption. Inside, there was a photo of her in the Aurum boardroom, the same room where she'd been escorted out by security 5 years ago. She was wearing one of her own designs, a simple gold pendant with a visible QR code etched into the back. The article's final paragraph read, when asked what she'd say to young women facing similar injustice, Anam doesn't offer platitudes. Don't wait for the system to fix itself, she says. Build something so successful they have to let you back in. Then change the system from the inside. Revenge is temporary. Transformation is permanent. Late one evening, 3 months after that article ran, Mira was alone in her office when her assistant knocked. Someone's here to see you. Says it's personal. I told them you weren't taking visitors, but who? Kavya Mehra, Arjun's sister. Mira hadn't seen Kavya since before the arrest. Kavya had moved to Boston years ago, distanced herself from the family business. From all of it. Send her in. Kavya entered quietly. She was 34 now, wearing jeans and a sweater. Nothing like the designer armor the Mehra family usually wore. I know I have no right to be here, Kavya said immediately. I know I should have said something 5 years ago. I knew Alina was lying. I knew my brother was a coward. And I said nothing because I was angry at my family and too selfish to risk getting involved. Mira waited. I'm not here to apologize. Words don't fix what happened to you. I'm here to tell you that what you've done, building Anya, buying Aurum, forcing accountability. It's the first time I've been proud of anything connected to this family in 10 years. Kavya's eyes were bright. You didn't just save yourself, you saved what this company could be. And I wanted you to know that matters. To someone who watched it all burn and couldn't stop it. Mira studied her. Why are you really here? Because I'm coming back to New York, and I want to work for you. Kavya lifted her chin. Not because of my name, despite it. I have an MBA, 7 years in nonprofit sustainability consulting, and a need to help fix what my family broke. I'll start in whatever role you'll give me. I need to be part of making this right. Mira thought about her father's words. One choice at a time. Come back Monday, she said finally. We'll talk about what you can offer and what I need. If those things align, we'll figure it out. If they don't, we part professionally. No family politics, no legacy considerations, just work. Kavya nodded, visibly relieved. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm a harder boss than Arjun ever was. Good, Kavya said. That's exactly what this place needs. Mira stayed in her office long after Kavya left. She looked out at the city, the same view she'd had from Arjun's penthouse once, back when she'd thought she belonged in that world. She belonged here now, but on her own terms. The woman who'd been arrested in an evening gown owned the empire that tried to erase her. And she'd turned that empire into something worth owning, not through destruction, through transformation, not through revenge, through receipts, resolve, and the refusal to disappear. She pulled out her phone, texted her father. "We did it, Papa. The room that tried to break me, I own it now, and I'm making it better." His response came immediately. "Never doubted you for a second, Beta. Your mother would be so proud." Mira closed her eyes, let herself feel it. The weight of 5 years. The impossible climb. The moment when victim became owner, and shame became power. Then she opened her laptop and got back to work. Because empires don't fix themselves. And she had a lot left to do. Family, let me leave you with this. Sometimes the people who try to bury you don't realize they're planting seeds. Sometimes the system that destroys you becomes the system you acquire, dismantle, and rebuild in your image. This story teaches us that justice isn't always immediate, that transformation takes longer than revenge, but lasts forever, that the best way to beat a corrupt system isn't to burn it down, it's to become so successful you can buy it, fix it, and force everyone who wronged you to watch. Mira didn't just survive being framed. She turned her destruction into her origin story. She built an empire on the opposite principles of the one that tried to erase her. And when that corrupt empire fell, she was standing there with investor capital, a business plan, and receipts. If this story moved you, if it made you believe that the worst thing that ever happened to you might become the foundation for your greatest success, hit that like button. If you believe in accountability over revenge, transformation over destruction, comment receipts below. And if you want more stories about people who refuse to stay down, subscribe. I spend hours researching and writing these narratives. Every like, every comment, every subscription tells me you want more stories of people who turn their pain into power. Remember, you are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by what you build afterward. You are not your worst moment. You are every choice you make to rise from it. Until next time, family, keep building, keep receipts, and keep believing that the people who try to destroy you might just be giving you the fuel to own everything they thought they'd taken. Stay blessed, stay strategic, and never, ever let them write your ending.